I get spicy with my rants, and I haven't done a rant in a long time, but I'm bringing this one back because it is on the top of my mind and very relevant because I went to the doctor yesterday. And while what I went for was the basic routine things, and it was actually a really great visit in a lot of ways, it led me feeling so frustrated with the banging your head against a wall when it comes to struggling with PMDD. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about PMDD. Let's talk about some of the things that I've recently discovered about PMDD, what it is, and why I am just so frustrated with the fact of it is just something that there isn't a whole lot of solutions or research on. So grab yourself a cozy drink. I've got some cinnamon tea steeping right now because it's cold in here. You might even hear my little space heater going in the background in my office right now because it is chilly outside. But we're going to rant about this. Welcome to the Living in Sync podcast, where we will talk about the biological blueprint of your cycle and how your hormones impact every area of your life. I'm your host, Joelle, certified nutritionist, mom of two, fitness coach for over a decade, and I want to help you better understand your cycle to work with your body in achieving your goals. I will teach you how to care for your body in a well-rounded and realistic way that caters to your season of life and feel freaking amazing. In every episode, you will get tips, takeaways, and just feel like this is a heart-to-heart chat with a friend. Let's roll into today's episode. I'm going to first kick this off with talking about what is PMDD. So PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And this rant is all about how PMDD can suck it. And it sucks. And it's awful and it's terrible. And I've got lots to say about this. But before we dive into that, I want to share with you what PMDD is. So PMDD is much more severe than PMS, than premenstrual syndrome, PMS. PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it really affects a lot of women in childbearing ages. So when we are having a consistent-ish cycle, this is really a condition that can come about in this age frame. I actually did a search of what age does PMDD start, and PMDD can arise anytime during reproductive years, but the average onset age is 26 years old. So very much like PMS, the symptoms of PMDD begin in late luteal. So think the week before your menstrual phase is about to begin. And also, if you notice that when menstruation starts, you feel like an entirely new person, that may also be a sign of PMDD. But it is very severe and very chronic medical condition. And from the Hopkins Medicine website, it says that it is something that needs attention and treatment. Lifestyle changes and sometimes medicines can help symptoms. So what causes PMD? So it's actually unknown. And even with all of the hormone books I have read and all of that, it's really just kind of like unknown to me because it happens just like clockwork the week before your period. Like, what's going on with progesterone, cortisol, all of that? What is going on? Serotonin. So there's a lot of hormone changes that happen right before menstrual phase, and the hormone changes that cause serotonin can also drop. So serotonin is a substance naturally found in the brain and intestines, and it really affects your mood. And there are so many things that just suck about PMDD, and I can see these symptom lists of like irritability, nervousness, lack of control, agitation, anger, insomnia, difficulty concentrating, depression, fatigue, anxiety, confusion, thoughtfulness, poor self-image, paranoia, emotional sensitivity, crying spells, moodiness, trouble sleeping, fluid retention, respiratory problems, eye complaints, so vision changes, eye infections, gastrointestinal symptoms like cramping, bloating, constipation, inflammation, headache, dizziness, fainting, easy bruising, heart palpitations, and then other things like appetite changes, food cravings, diminished sex drive, decreased coordination, temperature sensitivity like hot flashes. And remember, with PMDD, this is all to the extreme feeling. And so when I read about this being something that is often prominent in the reproductive years, around 26-ish years old, I would say I really started knowing and understanding and recognizing PMDD after I had my second born, because I was really starting to understand we had different phases of our cycles, understanding that our cycles affected various things in our body. And when I would feel really depressed, really anxious, really low motivation, sad all of the time, angry, like my kids were so little and they were just doing things that little kids do. But during my PMDD week, everything was amplified. Everything was awful. Everything was just like a dark hole. And there were many times where I was like, I just want to run away. And I had many dark thoughts. And while I was starting to recognize all of this was cyclical, I was also having conversations with my best friends about my bad days. Like I was finally opening up about my bad days and kind of talking about it from a mental health standpoint. And I had told one friend, like, I'm going to start tracking, like when it's a positive day, I'm going to put, I can't even remember, like a star on the calendar. When it's a bad day, I'm going to put like a black circle with a pen. And then I could really see how frequent the good days were and how frequent the bad days were. And what I found was it was so cyclical. And this makes me want to rant about PMDD, because I really feel like it is something that so many women are suffering silently with, and thinking that it's really, things are going wrong in their life. Like whether it's career or home or family, or they're not good moms, or they have no patience, or why are they so angry all the time, or why aren't they sleeping well? And really, while it is just 1 week out of the whole month, it's really so heavy and so severe that when you're going through those 5 to 7-ish days where things are really bad, it makes you even forget about all of the other days that were really good out of the month. And it wasn't until I opened my eyes. Now, I'm not going to negate mental health and depression and anxiety as their own conditions. What I am saying is I wish there was more awareness and education and understanding. And I guess that's why I'm recording this rant right now about PMDD and things being cyclical, because while I think about, and I mean, you guys can go back to podcast episodes around 2020 when I got back on SSRI medication, or maybe it was 2021. When I got back on that medication, I was like, but was it cyclical? Like, and then I asked my mom this question as we were just having a conversation about my most recent upcoming doctor visit about, Mom, when I was really struggling as a teenager with mental health, I was diagnosed with depression when I was a teenager, and while there were things circumstantially that contributed to that, I was like, was it all the time or just really bad bouts? And she couldn't remember, and I actually don't remember if she gave me an answer to that or if she could recall. But when I'm thinking and reflecting on it, I'm like, I was an active teen. I was in I had hobbies, I had extracurriculars, I was getting good grades, I had great jobs that I really loved and enjoyed during those times. And I'm really just thinking back to, was it cyclical then? But once again, when the bad days arise, it really makes you forget that you had good days. And it just sucks because, like I said at the top of this episode, when you're looking at like what is causing PMDD, it's really kind of unknown. Like, is it progesterone? Is it serotonin? Is it cortisol? Is it a storm of all of those? Is it because the levels are high and or low or imbalanced, or because one is higher than the other? Like, what is going on? And when I was talking to the professional about this at my annual exam, it was really just a dead end. Like, yep, that's textbook PMDD. And what is the solution that is being served to us that are struggling with PMDD? SSRIs, which have their own side effect, which have their own, huge things to consider if that is the right option for you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't, because I'm not going to make that choice and decision for anybody. I say this when it comes to any medication, whether it's birth control or SSRIs, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, Manjaro, Ozempic, whatever the medication is like, you want to make that decision of what is best for you, and don't go by, like, take in the information, but go with your own intuition, because these medications have been created and they are there when you truly need them. And there have been times in my life where I have needed medications for my mental health, medications for my not wanting to get pregnant or conceive, and I wouldn't change that choice that I made at that time. I will say, though, it's just so frustrating, and really thinking about PMDD from a level of understanding now, it's not just progesterone, because that's where my head was going, because that's another symptom that I have frequently, is I have a consistent cycle, but I do have some other symptoms that arise other than PMDD. And I was like, oh, this is a progesterone thing. But with serotonin and that needing to be a key element for like joy and like positivity, and knowing that stems from the gut, which stems from the brain, like there is going to be just huge positive impact for making good, well-rounded choices from a nutritional standpoint, from a supplement standpoint, from all of those things. While I do think I still struggle with PMDD at times, some months are better than others, some months are worse than others. It was actually recently that my husband had said to me, like, it really seems like you're only happy 3 months out, or 3 weeks out of the month. And that's when I'm like, oh, I gotta start paying attention to this PMDD again, because once again, was it all the time or is it cyclical? Because here I am in ovulation, and there are so many things where I just feel so much joy and gratitude, and I love what I'm doing and I love what I do. But also I can think back to like a couple months ago, I had a different narrative going on in my head leading up to my menstrual phase. It's just wild and crazy and wacky, and I want to bring light and awareness to this because PMDD sucks. PMDD can suck it. I am so frustrated with this condition. I'm also so frustrated that there isn't like intensive research being done. For women who are going through perimenopause and menopause and girls going through puberty, there is quite a bit of information done. But like those of us with PMDD, I would be the first to sign up to be in a study of take my blood work or whatever kind of samples you need from day 21 of my cycle to day 28 and tell me what's going on. Like I would show up at that lab every day of those days of my cycle. I would just, that research is just like, and I know I'm not a doctor and I'm not a medical professional and I have no experience with studies and various things like that. But to me, it's like, why is it not so obvious to pay attention to what's going on with somebody or a case study of women struggling with PMDD. And the first place I feel would be a really great place to start is get the information of what is going on biologically in those phases, because I got a blood panel done yesterday for hormones and thyroids and A1C, because those are just numbers that I want to have as my own information, right? The doctor really saw no concern as to my symptoms because they're just not severe enough. Like my ovulation pain isn't that severe. My spotting before my menstrual phase is really just a light brownish color. My PMDD, I'm saying like I feel really good majority of the month, but I have some weeks that are a week that is really, really crappy sometimes. And I'm starting to lean into, it's not every single month where my PMDD comes up, but like, especially when I was not aware of it and I didn't understand what was going on biologically, I was suffering. And that's where I still am, even though you guys know my main business right now that is generating income for me and my family is podcast production, service-based business for other people. Like podcast production is where my profit is coming in from at the moment. You guys love the information on cycle syncing, but like course sales and Patreon and all that, it's not enough for me to, this is getting just way into detail, but this is me saying, even though my quote unquote business that I've created for myself that is creating a profitable revenue stream for me and my family, I am still so wildly passionate about this and will do this podcast for free. You can subscribe to Patreon for $5 a month. I see some of you guys are joining as free members. You're not going to get exclusive content with the free membership. You're going to want to do the $5 membership. So with that, with this podcast, I'm still so passionate about learning about this and sharing this with you. I'm still so passionate about bringing experts onto this. I'm still so passionate about this topic, and I'm still going to continue this podcast, these topics, and other topics and various things, because it is so hard for me to be like, why is this not just something we really start talking about? And while everybody gives the like, oh, this is where my rant comes in. Everybody's like, oh, how come we don't learn this in school? It's not school's responsibility to teach us our biology. I think it's personal accountability. It was really so personally empowering for me to start understanding my biology. And I understand not every woman wants to do that, and I hope that this podcast is a way that makes it really easy for you to consume the type of information that is relevant and accurate and helpful for you to bring a better understanding to your biology in a realistic way, right? Because we're moms with careers. I talked about my new AM and PM routine, and I created those routines because I no longer have the structure and flexibility in my day to be willy-nilly in getting things, like I have less free time now. And so this podcast is still going to be prioritized because I am so wildly passionate about this. And I want to just say, those of you struggling with PMDD, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. And if I could leave you with tangible things that are helpful, what I would say for you to do is really remember to check mark those good days. Whether you do like me and you create a smiley face on a calendar so you can visually see, oh my gosh, I had so many great days this month, because then you're not going to let the gloomy storm cloud of PMDD, when it comes over you, it's not going to it's not going to create the illusion that it's never going to clear, because it does, and it will. And then another thing you could do is start understanding and living around your cycle, paying attention to the signs that your cycle is showing you, what hormone balances would be off. And then I would just say, live a healthy lifestyle. I know there are so many things that are like, eat for your hormones, eat for your gut health, eat for this type of way, but like, eat more good quality proteins, fruits and vegetables, complex good carbohydrates. Add more of those in to your day to day, and you'll see positive changes, because if there is a brain and gut connection to serotonin, eating really good, nourishing food is great for your gut health. Cutting out processed foods is great for your gut health. But to start, and I'm sorry, like I'm sorry that this is a dead end, because I felt that same frustration yesterday. Like, why isn't there anything to be helpful during this time? And I played around with like different supplementation. If it's hormone imbalance, I've got great Protea recommendations on that. If it's like stress related, great Angstify product Protea also has this. It really like depends. And I feel so bad at like ending this podcast and being like, there really isn't a whole lot of answers of like what to do to cure your PMDD, because it's so unknown. And that's why this is a rant, is because that is super frustrating. So take a breath, and each and every cycle we can anticipate it, we can better understand it, and we can learn to optimize, and we can try things like lifestyle changes and changing the narrative we have in our own brain of the expectations that we have on ourselves, and then playing around with supplementation. If you need to go to the medication route, obviously talk to your doctor, talk to your healthcare professional. And I am here with you, because while I would say most months my PMDD is pretty manageable now, but I've had and still have some months that are just miserable. This is it's an absolutely miserable thing. It took joy from so many great and wonderful times in my life, and I'm just frustrated. That there's like not a conclusive research study or a case study. And if there is, and you know of one, please let me know. I would love to look into it. And if you are struggling with this too, please send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to chat with you guys, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard, or you want to share your favorite episode topics, please leave a rating and review. This helps the podcast growth and gives people an idea of what the podcast is all about. Something new and exciting that I wanted to share with you before we go is that we now have a Patreon page. This has replaced the Feminine Edge collective community in a cohesive place that is easier for me to manage and cheaper for you. If you are interested in our monthly classes, exclusive day in the life vlogs, Bible studies, community Q&A, and more, go to patreon.com/livingInSync and join for just $5 a month. Check out the show notes for any links or details of things referenced in today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.